I tell you what it is. I've been dragged into this culture war stuff by virtue of my creative work, comedy, playwriting, etc. Because you have to address this as a creative. If there's such an obstacle, such an impediment, you have a kind of duty to address it.
Yeah.
Right, but when the political is an obstacle to your creativity,
right.
You can't ignore it.
But it then becomes an obstacle to other enthusiasms in your life.
Right.
And for me, Shakespeare...
And more lasting enthusiasms, hopefully.
And actually, I think the study of the likes of Shakespeare, who the activists are trying to problematize, the Globe Theatre in London, which is supposed to be the custodian of his work, has an annual anti-racist Shakespeare webinar where sort of anti-racist experts gather to berate Shakespeare for his problematic elements. And you think...
I'm morally superior to Shakespeare.
Yeah. I'm better than Shakespeare,
I'm better
right.
than Shakespeare,
And I think one of the great things... So in the course that I did for you, for the Peterson Academy, I started the first lecture with a question, which is, why has Shakespeare as a playwright never been bettered? How can that be the case? This is... He began in the late 1580s. The public theatres had only been around for about a decade. This is a new thing. This is a new medium. How is it that a man, right at the start of this new thing, isn't ever bettered for 4 centuries? How does that happen? And I hope by going through it, we sort of get to some kind of answer. But I think it's that prioritization of genius, which has now become suspect within the academy. The idea that his work can be reduced to the idea of just a white male effectively trying to empower other white men through his work. That's how they see art. That's how they see creativity, as just a kind of conduit.
Can you imagine a temptation more profound than the one that would allow you to be morally superior to the great geniuses of history just because you hold the same cost-free political opinions?
Exactly.
I mean, that is a good deal. I can barely tolerate going to museums now. Because you have a masterpiece and then an explanation by someone whose subtext is how they're morally superior to this person who's so outstanding that it's shamed them.
There was an exhibition of Hogarth in London where there was a self-portrait, and because he was sitting on a chair which was made of wood, the panel explained that the wood had probably come from a plantation and it's connected to slavery, and therefore we need to judge Hogarth. I think these little lectures that you get, it's so of this, it says so much about our time, but nothing about the art.
Yes.
And nothing about the transcendent capacity of art. And that's why I'm very careful now.
It's so rooted to the ear.
It is, absolutely.
Yeah.
And whenever I see, I research it very carefully now if I go and see a production of Shakespeare, because 9 times out of 10 it will be a mangling of Shakespeare to promote the ideology. And by the way, I don't think that's a problem. If you want to, people do all sorts of things with Shakespeare.
Yes.
And that's fine. They're free to do that. And I don't care if you want to turn it into a pro-Marxist thing or a whatever you want to do with it.
Queer Shakespeare.
But everyone's doing the same thing.
You want
well, when it's mandatory,
Shakespeare's
it's something
comedies
completely
to be
different. Yes.
Even more confusing.
Yeah, well, and
they are anyway.
That's what I mean.
The other thing that happens, of course, is that as soon as the theatrical presentation becomes woke, no one watches it.
Yes.
And then all the activists say, well, obviously Shakespeare is passé because no one's paying any attention to him anymore.
But why is it that in our current culture, I think all art at the moment is, as you say, mandatory in terms of it must be conveying the message. It feels like state-sanctioned art, propaganda rather than art. Yeah. And that's the only way you're going to get commissioned. That's the only way you're going to get a play on. Yeah. Well, no, in the UK, I mean...
it's increasingly the case in classical music and everywhere in the arts and the theatrical productions all across the United States. I think 50% of the theaters now in the United States are the prophecy is that they'll go broke within the next 2 years. Sure. And it's like the problem with propaganda is no one wants to watch it. So.
Well, Graham, if you were working, if they were letting you work today, all of your scripts would be passed by a sensitivity reader in advance. You would be told which bits you have to take out.
Yeah.
Even the poet Kate Clancy, who's on the left and etc. She wrote this piece about sensitivity readers, her experience. She'd written and I will not do it justice, but she, as a poet, had used the word disfigurement relating to the landscape, relating to the... She was doing something poetic, obviously. And the sensitivity reader said that's an ableist slur. So all they can see when they read these texts is how does this either promote or oppress people on the basis of identity groups? Yeah. And that's not art.
I met a guy who was writing a biography of, I can't say who it is because it will get him into trouble, but of a very famous figure in the 50s. And I believe he had a heart attack from dealing with sensitivity readers because the correspondence that he
Another dead white man.
Yeah.
Yes.
Old. Was he old? Hopefully. That's another old
Another
dead white
evil.
man.
But
Yeah.
all the stuff, all the information that he'd unearthed, the letters, they were all using, the F word for gay men or the, N word and stuff like this. But this is the past.